let's put together a type-based animation based on some of the principles we've just learned. I have a new After Effects project, and I'm going to make a new composition. And let's make sure we're using the right size. And so I'm going to call this easing, because we're going to learn about easing animation in the context of typography. And I have it in 1920 by 1080. I want to make sure it says square pixels, and I want to make sure that the frame rate is 24. And let's go ahead and make it, there we go, get that out of the way. Let's go ahead and make it 7 seconds. And so remember, this is in hours, minutes, seconds, frames. Hours, minutes, seconds, frames. And the background color, we're going to have that turned off, so it doesn't matter. There we go. I'm going to make sure I have two things on at the beginning. I'm going to turn on title and action safe, so I have my grid there. And I'm going to make sure that this is on as well. Let me turn on my zoom. There we go. And I'm going to make sure that the background transparency is on right here, so that I can tell that's a background. There we go. Now, this will be better. Let's go ahead and create a background first. So I'm going to right click and create a new solid. And we'll call this background. And I don't want it to be totally 100% white. Let's soften it up a little bit. And I'll make sure it doesn't get any tint, but just a little bit of gray. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and lock this so that I don't click on it and move it when I'm working with things on top of it. Let's make some type. I've already installed all the fonts, the list of usable fonts, and I'm going to use Lotto, which is the Google font equivalent, one of the ones in the zip file. You choose one of the fonts from the zip file. Okay, don't use Lotto, use your own. And let's set up the frame first, and then we'll animate it. And so we're going to make an animation here that demonstrates 3 different gradations of easing in and easing out. And so it's going to say good, better, best. And let's just get the type on the screen first. And so I grab the type tool, click in here, I can type good. There we go. I'm going to go back to V for the, I'm going to click off of here, or just click up here. There we go. And let's make this, that's 50. All right. And we want to make sure that the anchor point over here is lined up with the left edge of the type. And so you can go to Y for anchor point tool, or click up here and move it to where you would want. Also, let's go back to the type tool and make sure there's one other thing here, that everything is left aligned. All right, we're not going to have multiple lines of text, but let's just get in the habit of having that correct. Good. Now, that's good. Let's go ahead and we'll just duplicate that. Control C, Control V, and hit V. Get the other tool, drag it down. If I hold down Shift, it'll go straight down. And let's say better. There we go. And let's go ahead and Control C, Control V. V. Drag that down. And let's call this best. Great. Now let's employ some of the parameters that we talked about. Let's first resize the type to communicate hierarchy. And so usually when I have it organized vertically here on screen, in a simple instance like this, I think it's easier if this order reflects this order, just so I don't get confused. It doesn't really change anything about the compositing in this case, but just to keep things straight, I think it's easier. Good. And so now let's go back to V. Let's zoom out. Let's get everything aligned with this axis right there. There we go. And let's communicate their size. So this is 50, and we want to say that this is better. And so let's use that doubling rule and put this at 100. Okay, I'm going to use the actual font size here rather than scaling it, so that I can have some size that's informed by what's going on. I'm going to line that up again. May want to adjust the anchor point in this case. Yeah, it's a little bit off, so I'm going to hit Y and move that over to here. There we go. And hit V and get that lined up. There we go. And then on this one, double click, and let's put this double again at 200. There we go. And let's go hit V. Whoops. Click out of there. And again, I could line it up this way, but I really want the anchor point to be correct. This will be something that we come back to over and over and over again over the course of the semester. You really want to make sure your anchor points are correct before you start doing a whole lot of work, because it's definitely more difficult to make those adjustments later on once you've already done some animating. There we go. All right, that's good. Now let's employ our font weight rule about skipping a weight. And so if we look at this one, not all of them are going to have this many weights. Okay, so this one has hairline 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And so that allows us to plenty of room to skip weights. And so usually you have some sort of light, regular, bold, but that's not always a guarantee. And so let's go ahead and use light and bold, right? We're going to skip regular. And in my instance here, I'm going to make sure that that's light. I'm going to make sure that the second one is also light. There we go. And then here on this one, let's grab best. Let's make sure that this one is bold. We're skipping regular. Let's check the anchor point again on this one. And so let's make a small adjustment there. Hit Y for the anchor point tool. Move that over. Cool. And then line this up to be exact. And so this is one of the instances where we're going to I'm just going to use the arrow keys here to sort of nudge this to really get this lined up. There we go. Nice. And if the anchor points were placed well, even if they're discombobulated, I could grab them all and use the Align tab here to sort of align them all together, which also works. And so in this case, that's pretty good. Let's move this one down kind of in the middle. I want to group them a little bit tighter. Again, I'm holding down Shift so I don't disturb the horizontal alignment. And I'm making sure that the spacing here and spacing here are the same. And then let's distribute them so that the spacing between here and here is equal. And that looks pretty good. Great. Okay, so let's start to add some, well, let's save first. I can go File, Save As. And I'm going to put this in my 184 folder. There we go. New folder. Type Animation. There we go. Okay, good. Now, this is where we want things to come to rest. They're going to animate in and then animate out. And in this case, let's go ahead and put this keyframe right here at about 2 seconds. And so I'm going to select all of these and hit P for position, and then turn the stopwatch on. Great. Now, the next thing, in almost all instances, we want to separate dimensions. And so I'm going to go to the graph editor, and with all the position selected, so I'm control clicking the position keyframes there, I can come down and select this button, which is separate dimensions, or you can right click and say separate dimensions. They're already separated here. Now in this case, we're going to move them just left and right. I'll talk some more about this, but we really want to establish a grid and only move along that grid. There's almost no instances where you want to have type moving diagonally on the screen. You either want it straight horizontally or straight vertically. And it's just part of designing within the box that is the screen. And so in this case, we really are not going to do any Y animation. And so just to make my life simpler, I'm going to get rid of the Y there. That way, if I select all the layers again, and I hit U, U shows me only parameters that have been keyframed. It's a really good shortcut to write down and memorize. Great. All right, so we've got it there. And now we want to, let's come back to this view once. We want the type to stay at this point, right, this configuration here. And in order to do that, we need to have a keyframe that tells, that controls the beginning of the hold and one that controls the end of the hold. And this is a quirk in After Effects. Usually what you would want to do, if I want to duplicate these keyframes over here, is I would grab them all and hit Control C, and then it would paste them here. But watch what happens. You hit Control V, and it duplicates all of the layers. And this is a known irritating thing in After Effects that hopefully will be fixed eventually. But the way around this is you can select the keyframe here one at a time and just go Control C, Control V, grab another one, Control C, Control V, and Control C, Control V. There is a third-party script that can fix this in instances where you need to do it, but I like to show everybody how to do things in just vanilla After Effects, especially at the beginning. Cool. And so now they will stay in that position between 2 seconds and 5 seconds. Great. Now let's get everything onto the screen. And so about half a second in, let's grab all the layers there and let's move them off screen to the left over here. There we go. And we'll see that they animate on. We get the default linear animation. It does not look good. That's what we're doing here. We're going to fix that. And then after this keyframe, at the end, we want to have them animate off. And so I'm going to grab them and again, grab this. I could either, I dialed this last time just by dialing this down. You could also grab them here and move it, but you'd want to hold down Shift to make sure I don't move them vertically and move this off screen over there. Great. And so now they are doing the correct motion, but this should really raise an alarm that this is not, everything is doing linear animation, which we do not want in almost any instance. And so we're going to turn this into an ease in, ease out. So they decelerate into the position and then accelerate out of it. And we're going to do 3 different gradations of that. So let's come back here and let's just select the X position. And I'm going to grab all of these keyframes right there. And I'm going to come down here and actually let's do it this way. Let's grab this one here and we are going to ease in to this position. And so if we look at this, easy ease in, we get that one. We see that it's slowly easing into that position. And over here, I don't want to do that. Let's grab them both and just hit easy ease. There we go. This one, the one with Bezier handles on them both. And then over here, Bezier handles. And so now they're easing in and easing out of both, right? We get this S shape, which is not what we want here. We want them to decelerate in. Right now they're accelerating and decelerating. And so here, under good, let's do good first. We're going to grab this one and we're going to drag this handle so that it's straight up and down. And we'll do the same for this one. And the same for this one. Again, trying to keep it so it's not, don't go too far if you curve past, watch what happens. We get overshoot, which in some instances is fine, and we're actually going to learn about doing that, but today we don't want it. And so now all of those are fairly equal. And here we are going to dial in this handle in order to ease them a different amount. And so here we'll be decelerating less under good. And so I'll move that handle closer to the keyframe. For better, grab this one. I'm going to keep it where it is. And for best, I'm going to grab this one and shift drag this handle out so it really decelerates. Let's do the same for the other part. And so here with good, I'll go ahead and dial this one down like so. And grab this one and hold down shift and make it just on the side of this. Better. Again, grab this handle and move it down. About the same amount. Let's use that line there. So that is the same. So we can just adjust this one. And again, hold down shift to make sure we don't get overshoot. Move this over some. And then best, again, grab this one and move it down. Right there. And then grab this one and drag this one, holding down shift even more. There we go. All right. And I'll Control S again. And let's see what we have here. There we go. And so we can see how the acceleration and deceleration is the most eased on best. And what we're looking for here is really we don't want to see it kind of chunk into place as if it hits a wall, unless the animation is about it actually hitting a wall. We're really trying to make things as smooth as possible. And so you can see the 3 different gradations there, right? This is another mode of expression that you need to understand. And so they're all eased, which sort of clears the lowest hurdle as far as making a typography, designed animation. And we can see all 3 of them. If I select all of them, you can see the gradations there. As far as like the more curvature, the longer the amount of time it's going to take decelerating or accelerating out of it, which is going to result in visually smoother motion. You can see good, we can actually see it kind of chunk into place, whereas best is very subtle. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and hit save on this.